Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I bring you a video about the story of Tieu and CEO Hai. When Tieu heard that Toan's mother had finally accepted everything, she did not react the way people might expect. She did not rejoice, did not burst into tears, nor did she rush to show any emotion outwardly. In that moment, she simply paused, allowing her thoughts to drift slowly through her mind. The news did not crash over her like a great wave, but rather spread like gentle ripples, seeping in, touching softly upon the most hidden corners of her heart. Tieu fell silent for a few seconds, her gaze lowering slightly, as if listening to herself. Then she smiled, very faintly, a fragile yet complete smile, not showy, not loud, quietly present like a brief visit from peace. That smile was not the expression of explosive joy, but more like a light breeze brushing across her chest, so subtle, yet enough for her to feel a quiet calm spreading within. It was the feeling of someone who had waited too long enough to understand that some joys do not need to be loudly named. Just knowing that everything was finally finding its rightful place was enough. In that moment, Tieu did not think of a distant future, nor did she imagine brilliant scenes ahead. She simply felt a rare sense of relief, as if an invisible burden had been set down, even if only a small part of it. Tieu understood that to arrive at the word acceptance, Trang must have gone through countless long nights of inner struggle. Nights when one lies still in the darkness, letting thoughts wander freely, afraid to name hope, and unwilling to believe that one deserves happiness. Sometimes, silence is heavier than an outright rejection. Trang had lived through such days where every decision had to be weighed, every emotion restrained. She must have wondered whether her love might unintentionally become a burden to someone else, whether her presence might cause discomfort, guilt, or force others to choose between responsibility and personal desire. Those questions never needed to be spoken aloud. They existed quietly, repeating themselves in the most ordinary moments of life. And Tieu understood this better than anyone. There was a time when she herself lived fully within that same feeling, the feeling of placing oneself last, not daring to demand, not daring to hope, fearing that speaking out would only make things more awkward. She had once believed that silence was the best way to preserve everything, even though the price was prolonged exhaustion and unnamed wounds. There was a time when Tieu stood exactly where Trang once stood, quietly waiting, silently watching the person she loved struggle between family and personal feelings. She saw the hesitation in his eyes, heard the unfinished words, and understood that some battles need no explanation. She understood the helplessness of being able to do nothing but remain silent when every effort feels futile. She understood a pain that was not loud, not accusatory, not resentful, yet persistent and so deep that a single glance was enough to know what the other person was enduring. Those days taught Tieu how to accept the slow pace of fate. She learned that effort is not always immediately rewarded, that not every feeling can be acknowledged at the right time. Some relationships require immense patience before they can be named, and some emotions must travel a very long road before finding their place. Having walked those paths herself, when Tieu looked at Trang, she did not see her through comparison, but through deep understanding. And so, when she saw Trang finally able to stand beside Toan openly and with dignity, with the status and respect she deserved, Tieu felt no jealousy. Instead, a quiet, pure joy rose within her. It was not only happiness for someone else, but also a sense that a wounded part of her own past had been gently soothed. Seeing another person reach the place she once longed for did not make her feel deprived, but comforted, as if everything she had endured had not been meaningless. The old scars were still there. They did not disappear with a single piece of news or a faint smile. But at least they had been touched with gentleness. And sometimes that alone is enough for a person to keep moving forward with a lighter heart, a calmer spirit, and a readiness to welcome the next chapters of life. That day, Tieu worked faster than usual, faster than the familiar rhythm she had maintained for a long time. Tasks flowed one after another with an unusual smoothness, as if everything had already been arranged, simply waiting for her to step in and complete them. There was no sense of urgency, no need to force herself to concentrate. Instead, her heart was remarkably calm. Calm enough for her hands to move with practiced ease, calm enough for her mind not to be scattered by trivial thoughts. From time to time, even while focused on the screen or paperwork, Tieu's eyes would drift unconsciously toward the wall clock. That glance carried neither impatience nor the restless anticipation one might expect. It was merely a very light, very gentle sense of waiting, like a thin thread stretching quietly through the entire day. Time passed slowly, yet never heavily, without pressure, almost as if it were allowing her to savor each small moment. As evening fell and the last sunlight stretched across familiar streets, Tieu stopped by an old shop tucked away on a road she had passed countless times. Inside, the space retained its familiar stillness, the scent of new fabric mingled with a faint hint of wood, making it easy to relax. She chose a simple, refined outfit, nothing elaborate in design, nothing flashy in color. It was the kind of clothing that felt right the moment she put it on, requiring little adjustment. Standing before the mirror, Tieu suddenly realized it had been a long time since she had taken a moment to look at herself with such gentleness. Not to scrutinize, not to judge, but simply to observe herself with a natural sense of appreciation. She recognized that this feeling had once existed, only to be buried beneath countless worries. This time, she was caring for herself not to please anyone else, nor for any special occasion that demanded an impression. It was simply an acknowledgement that she deserved to be treated kindly, first and foremost by herself. An excitement she thought had long been asleep quietly returned, not loud or dazzling, but soft and warm, spreading gradually through every small movement. That evening, CEO Hai arrived to pick her up right on time, as he always did, an unspoken habit shaped by mutual respect. There were no flowers in his hand, no carefully prepared words meant to surprise her. Everything was so simple that, from the outside, it might have seemed like an ordinary meeting. Yet when Tieu stepped out, Hai's gaze lingered on her just a moment longer. Not long enough to make her self-conscious, but enough for both of them to understand that, in that instant, they were truly seeing each other, clearly and completely. No explanation was needed, no confirmation required through words. Between them existed a distinct sense of reassurance, as if both knew they were exactly where they were meant to be, beside the person they were meant to stand with. They had dinner at a small, familiar restaurant where soft yellow lights bathed the quiet space, slowing everything down. It was neither crowded nor luxurious, but warm enough to invite conversation. They talked about ordinary things, small moments from the day, thoughts that didn't need to be neatly arranged. Between their words were natural pauses, never awkward. It wasn't silence from a lack of things to say, but the kind that comes when two people are comfortable enough not to fill every moment with sound. In that quiet, they still felt each other's presence, clear and steady. The next morning, as the new day had just begun, Tieu received Trang and Toan's wedding invitation. The envelope rested lightly in her hand, small yet full of meaning. She opened it and saw the two names placed neatly side by side, clear and firm, like a statement that needed no further explanation. Tieu read each line slowly, allowing herself to fully take in the message. Then she smiled, a gentle smile, free of regret. She understood that there are forms of happiness that do not belong to her, and that realization did not leave her empty. Simply witnessing others complete the difficult journey they had once struggled through, simply seeing peace finally find its rightful place, was enough to warm her heart. That evening, Tieu gave the invitation to Hai. They sat together, preparing a wedding gift, choosing flowers, and writing simple congratulatory notes. There was no noisy discussion, no need for excessive deliberation. Everything unfolded quietly and slowly, yet carried a clear sincerity. In every small gesture, in the way they completed those seemingly simple tasks together, a quiet harmony was taking shape, naturally continuing from the days before and gently guiding them toward the chapters ahead. The wedding day arrived under gentle sunlight, not harsh or glaring, but softly spreading a pale golden hue across the space, making everything appear clear and warm. That morning passed slowly, as if time itself understood that some moments should not be rushed. When Trang stepped into the ceremony hall, her steps were steady and unexpectedly calm. It was not the calmness of someone carefree, but the rare composure of a person who had lived through enough anxiety, enough waiting, and enough long nights of self-questioning to understand that standing here now was the result of great patience and endurance. Trang did not need to force a radiant smile. The peace reflected in her eyes said everything. Toan stood waiting at the end of the aisle, posture straight, gaze firm. He did not look around, nor was he distracted by the lively sounds surrounding him. In that moment, the crowded space seemed to fall away, leaving only the image of the bride walking toward him. Toan's eyes were fixed solely on Trang, not with possessiveness, but with the look of someone ready to stand alongside, to shoulder burdens together, to walk the path together. Amid congratulations, smiles, and lights, that connection was unmistakable, without needing words. Tieu watched from a distance that felt just right, not too close to become the center of attention, and not so far as to feel detached. She stood still, quietly observing each moment unfold. There was no sadness in her heart, as people might expect, nor the vague regrets so common in old stories. Instead, a sense of relief slowly spread, as if a long stretch of road had finally come to a proper close. Tieu realized her breathing had grown lighter, her heart no longer weighed down by unanswered questions. What she witnessed did not wound her. Rather, it offered a silent confirmation that some endings are not meant to hurt anyone, but to allow everyone to move forward. The ceremony continued in a warm atmosphere. Laughter, applause, and blessings followed one another, forming a complete picture of joy. Tieu did not try to seek anyone's gaze, nor did she avoid anything. She simply stood there, watching, listening, allowing herself to be present in the most natural way. Inside her, emotions did not surge dramatically, but flowed quietly and steadily, like a deep current beneath a calm surface. When Trang turned around to prepare to toss the bouquet, the air suddenly grew more animated. People laughed and stirred, some stepping forward with expectant eyes. By instinct, Tieu shifted slightly to the side. It was not avoidance born of fear, nor a sense of unworthiness. She simply did not expect anything for herself in that moment. For her, being there, witnessing and fully feeling someone else's happiness, was enough. She held no expectations, hoped for no miracles, and did not wonder whether fate was preparing something for her. But Hai was different. Amid the bustle, he stepped forward at just the right moment, neither rushed nor hesitant. When the bouquet was thrown, he reached out and caught it decisively, as if the moment itself had already been chosen by him. There was no loud cheering, no grand gesture. Holding the bouquet, Hai turned, and walked straight toward Tieu. Each step was clear and calm, with no need to prove anything to anyone else. He stopped in front of her. There were no lengthy speeches, no performance to draw all eyes to them. Just one gentle yet certain sentence, spoken clearly enough for Tieu to hear. "This bouquet should belong to you." In that instant, the surrounding sounds seemed to fade. Tieu reached out to take the bouquet and felt her hand tremble slightly. Not from shyness under others' gazes, nor from simple surprise. It was a deep, genuine stirring from the realization that, after so many hurts and so many times standing on the sidelines, she was finally being chosen. Not as a substitute, not as a safe option, but as a clear, unquestioned choice. The bouquet in her hands was no longer just a ceremonial symbol. It became a deeply personal marker for Tieu. In that moment, she did not think about a distant future, nor rush to attach grand meanings to it. She simply stood there, feeling her heartbeat slow, sensing the warmth spreading from the hand holding the flowers, and realizing that some moments, though small, are enough to close old cracks and open a sense of safety she had not dared to touch for a very long time. Night fell slowly after the wedding came to an end. The space gradually grew quieter, the earlier bustle fading away with each departing guest. Soft yellow lights stretched along the familiar road, not too bright, just enough to illuminate the path and preserve the warm, intimate feeling of an evening that had been filled with joy. Tieu and Hai walked hand in hand, their steps unhurried, as if neither wanted to break the peaceful rhythm that had settled around them. They had walked this road many times before, yet tonight it felt different, quieter, deeper, like a necessary pause after a day rich with emotion. There were no grand promises spoken in a romantic moment, nor distant plans drawn with hopeful words. Both of them understood that some things, when said too soon, become burdens, while keeping them quietly in the heart allows them to grow steadier. They simply walked beside each other, close enough to feel the warmth of clasped hands, close enough to sense their steps moving in sync. That presence was not loud and needed no proof, yet it carried a genuine sense of reassurance, as if walking together like this was already an answer. Tieu felt the stillness around her, but it was not emptiness. Instead, it felt like a perfectly sized space where thoughts could settle, where emotions could calm and reveal themselves more clearly. The memories of the past did not disappear. The paths she had once walked were still there. But they no longer weighed on her as they once had. They rested quietly in a deep corner of her heart, like experiences that had fulfilled their purpose. She did not try to forget, nor did she cling to them. She simply accepted that everything that had happened had led her to this moment. Hai walked beside her, saying little, yet Tieu could feel the steadiness he carried. It was not a protective force imposed upon her, but a clear sense of companionship. He did not pull her forward, nor did he slow her down excessively. Their steps naturally aligned, as if they had long been accustomed to walking this way together. In that moment, Tieu realized that some relationships do not need to be affirmed by grand promises. Feeling safe beside one another, knowing that if she slowed down, he would still be there, was enough. Within Tieu, a small seed of hope was quietly beginning to sprout. It was not dazzling or overwhelming, but gentle and persistent. That hope did not come from sweet words, nor was it built upon perfect visions of the future. It came from simple things, a hand held tightly, a familiar road, a peaceful evening after so many changes. She did not rush to name that feeling, nor did she try to force it to grow faster. She let it exist at its own pace, slow, yet certain. Tieu understood that this hope was different from the ones she had known before. It carried no impatience, no fear of loss. It was small enough not to frighten her when facing future challenges, yet clear enough for her to believe she was moving in the right direction. After everything she had been through, after wounds that once made her doubt herself, Tieu San began to believe again that she was worthy. Worthy of a peaceful kind of love, worthy of being chosen, and worthy of moving forward without constant guard or unease. The road ahead was still long, and Tieu San did not deceive herself into thinking everything from now on would be easy. But unlike before, she no longer felt afraid when thinking about the future, because now, beside her, was someone willing to walk with her, someone who did not promise more than he could give, yet was steadfast enough not to turn away. For Tieu San, that alone was already a beautiful beginning. That night, beneath the gentle yellow lights and with their slow, steady steps, Tieu San felt clearly that she was standing at a new threshold of her life. Not loud or showy, but firm and true. And within that quiet, a small faith continued to grow, little by little, enough to light the path she was walking. Stay tuned for the next episode to follow the story's developments, and don't forget to leave a comment sending your blessings to Trang and Toan.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Cảm ơn mọi người rất nhiều. Tạm biệt mọi người. Hẹn gặp lại mọi người trong những video tiếp theo nhé. Bye bye.